Hare Krishna. Good evening, my dear Prabhus and dear Matajis. Nice to see you again this evening. First of all, I would like to greet everyone. Hello, kay Ron Prabhu, Hare Krishna. Janice Mataji, Hare Krishna. Rolly Prabhu, Hare Krishna. Raymond Prabhu, Hare Krishna. Shinya Prabhu, Hare Krishna. Bhakti Nikita Mataji, Hare Krishna. Raul Prabhu, Hare Krishna. Bhakti Chantal Mataji, Hare Krishna. And yes, of course, others will join in a while. And would like to welcome, of course, please greet in the chat box our dear teacher and one of our senior educator here in Brajika Village is Grace Sridham Prabhu. Hare Krishna Sridham Prabhu. Good evening po.
Hare Krishna. Good evening. So, shall we proceed?
Mm-hmm.
I'm very much excited and glad to be back since our last class last Thursday, and we hope to discuss more deeply on the verse for our we are assigned for today, chapter 2, text number 40. So, if you may, please Radha Charan Prabhu the invocation prayers to the spiritual masters.
Yes, Prabhu. Coming.
Yeah. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jananjana Shalakaya Shakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Itinane Namaste Sarasvati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Sunyavadi Paskatya Deshatarine Vansha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Eva Cha Patitana Pavanevyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay, so we are back, and as I mentioned earlier, we are glad and very much excited to be with you all this evening as we will be discussing interesting verse in Bhagavad Gita. Lahat naman ng verse is very interesting without exception. Of course, different angles of vision, different information we can get. So I believe yesterday was about the Guru discussion ninyo in the Bhagavad Gita. So now, uh, before we start, ito yung trademark ko. I would like to have a short icebreaker. Ilan ba tayo? This will not be a long icebreaker as hindi kagaya ng last time. But I would require everyone to participate kasi since konti lang naman tayo, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. 10 ba tayo to?
Mm.
Yes.
More or less 10, Prabhu.
Oo. So, at saka this icebreaker is activities, saglit lang siya. There's no need for sharing. You just have to state yung ano mo, yung situation mo. So, without further ado, ang ating icebreaker is entitled, I'm glad I'm here. I'm glad I'm here. Okay? So, para medyo makapag-isip pa kayo kasi parang biglaan ito. So, what I would like everyone to think is that at this particular time of the day, a particular day of the week, Thursday, ano kayang ginagawa natin usually pag wala tayo dito? Okay, pag wala hindi tayo nag-uusap, usually baka pumunta sa ganito or ganyan. So I would start with myself, ako muna, and then we'll go around. Yung sa screen ko makita ko, kasama ka na rin, Radha Charan Prabhu, if you don't mind, para they can still kind of think. Kasi biglaan ako, nag-isip na ako kasi alam ko na yung icebreaker eh. Kasi kayo ngayon pa lang, you just know about it just this minute or just right this second. So medyo, ano kaya? So anyway, ako. So I'm glad I'm here today. And if I were not here today, most probably I would be tinkering with my Facebook account, scrolling with my Facebook account. Like, in other words, shooting the breeze or twiddling my thumbs. In short, wala akong masyadong ginagawang na very productive. Or maybe ito ay ano ko, marireveal ko na yung weakness ko. Maybe I would be watching the latest NBA game. Mahilig ako kasi sa basketball. So when I was in high school, ako ay naglalaro ng basketball. So parang sabihin natin frustrated basketball player ako. Kaya manood na lang ako ng basketball NBA. So yan, maaari siguro by this time of the day, medyo unwind kasi mag-unwind na eh. You've done, may trabaho ka during the day. So try to relax. So either na titingin ako Facebook o baka check ako ng NBA highlights of the day's game. So, but I'm glad I'm here with you all. So, ayan po. So, we can go to the next. Mabilisan lang. It doesn't have to be a mahabang, revelation. Just quickly lang kung anong maisip mo, I would be doing this if I'm not here. Sige. Next is Radha Charan Prabhu. Please.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you for that icebreaker. Naalala ko yung mga programs natin when I was younger. Mga Bractive Rickshaw natin. May mga icebreaker na. Yung itsura ni Prabhu Sridham hanggang ngayon, same lang, di nagbabago. So, I'm glad that I'm here. Kasi kung wala tayong class ngayon, dalawa lang yung ginagawa ko ng ganitong oras. It's either nasa Prasadam Hall ako kumakain or nag-exercise.
Okay.
Pero madalas kain lang yun.
Pag ganitong oras, ano?
Pag ganitong oras. So, now, I'm happy and I'm glad na tuwing umaga and tuwing gabi, naka-sandwich may program and may klase. So, I'm glad I'm here. Kasama ko kayo. Yeah. Thank you very much po.
Okay. Thank you, Radha Charan Prabhu. So, next in line is Bhaktin Riza. Ang makikita ko sa screen.
Hello.
Hello.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
So,
Krishna.
usually, ganitong time, yon dinner din or magsa-social media or or magbabasa, catch up on reading or makikipagkulitan sa mga kapatid ko or sa pamangkin ko. Or yung dog ko maingay. Makikipaglaro ako sa dog. Sorry ang ingay niya.
Okay, thank you. Sorry na medyo na-distract ako sa anak ko na may gustong kunin. Thank you for sharing, Baktin Lisa. Next is Janice. Please.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening.
If I'm not here attending the yoga class, most probably at this time of the day, cooking or eating, watching the news, relaxing, yun. So because of this, I'm adjusting my time.
Okay.
Either eat before or after our
Or after.
class.
Okay. Okay,
Yes.
thank
And I'm
you.
glad I'm here. Looking forward.
Thank you, Janice. Next is Baktin Chantal. Chantal, that I pronounced correctly.
Hare
Please.
Krishna Prabhu. I am glad I'm here today. We eat dinner early. So by this time, wala na. Tapos na yung household chores namin sa house. Pero I have a confession. I have an addiction. Addict ako sa Scrabble sa phone. So, basta matapos na yung work sa office or sa daughter ko, I will sit down and I will play Scrabble. Siguro kahit 1 whole hour, ang dami kong kalaro, mga 14 different games all at the same time. Yun yung addiction ko. So, I'm glad that instead of doing that, the Scrabble, I am here today in class.
Good. Thank you. Thank you, Baktin Chantal. So next is Shinya. Can you please share to us?
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Also
Hare
happy
Krishna.
to be here. Yeah, usually gantong oras po either nagluluto ako or nag-Netflix or nag-yoga asana. Mga gantong oras. Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Shinya. Next is Bhakta Roli.
Yeah, Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah. I'm glad I'm here. If not, nag-gym. Tapos pagtapos ng gym, babawi ng kain. Kailangan mo kasi yung time na ganito.
Okay. Thank you, Bhakta Roli. Nag-mix up na. Bhakta Raul. I think he typed in what he wanted to say. Basahin ko na lang, ano? I'm glad I'm here today. If not, I'm occupied watching shows via the tube. Okay, thank you, Raul, for that. Next is Bhakta Ron.
Hello po. Hare Krishna.
Good evening.
I'm glad I'm here today. If not, siguro po nagbabasa lang po ako ngayong oras. Pero siguro months ago, siguro po tinitiis ko yung mga kabarkada ko nag-iinuman tsaka nag-yoyosi, gano'n. So bang toxic na surrounding siguro po yung trip.
Okay.
So, sobrang glad po na nandito ako ngayon sa klase. Ayun lang po. Thank you.
Thank you, Bhakta Ron. Thank you. Then, next is, sino to? Bhaktin Krish. Ano yan? Hindi ko makita buong. Bhaktin Krish. Christine. Sorry. Bhaktin Christine. Mute.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Usually kasi ang 7 is 7 p.m. habit na to eh. Parang naka-block na to. Na kapag laging may class. Pero if walang class and hindi ako injured ngayon, siguro nag-yoga. Pero ngayon, I read books na kapag magantong time. If wala tayong class.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Christine. And then, sino pa hindi pa natin tawag?
Si Rodel.
Yes, Bhakta Rodel, please. Diyan ba siya?
Or si...
Hello, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Pasensya na, Prabhu. Kasi mag-o-offer ako ngayon eh, Prabhu eh. Offering ako ngayon.
Okay. Okay, sige.
offering po. Pasensya na po.
Hare
Salamat
Okay,
Krishna.
po.
okay. Sige, sige. No problem, no problem. Sino pa?
Si Nikita.
Okay, next Nikita.
Bakit Nikita? Oh yeah, she wrote something.
If not here now, 2 months ago, I'll be watching Netflix, play with my niece, or eating dinner. Okay.
Yan.
Thank you.
Si Bakta
Nikita.
Kaser, pero kakapasok lang ni Bakta Kaser. Si David pala, pwede pa.
Oh, David na lang. Oo, kasi.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. If I'm
Hare
not
Krishna.
here, usually nanonood ako ng Netflix or YouTube about meditation. I'm glad I'm here because matututo naman po ako ng marami sa inyo, Prabhu. And Hare Krishna po.
Hare Krishna. Jai. So I think we called upon everyone na, no? And that's about it. So thank you everyone once again for sharing yung inyong I'm glad I'm here. Otherwise you'll be doing other things, you know. Not that it's that bad, but of course, you know, mas maganda may meron tayong discussion about knowledge about the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, thank you din pala sa yung nakapag-send ng kanilang assignment questions ahead of time. Thank you for that. And without further delay, let us proceed para may enough time tayo at the end. And this is just a short purport of Srila Prabhupada. So please take your Bhagavad Gita and we will be reading. So again, chapter 2, text number 40. So everybody has their Bhagavad Gita. Neha Vikrama na shoste pratyavayo na vidyate saalpam api asya dharmasya trayate mahato bhayat. Neha Vikrama na shoste pratyavayo na vidyate swalpam api asya dharmasya trayate mahato bhayat. Neha Vikrama na shoste pratyavayo na vidyate swalpam api asya dharmasya trayate mahato bhayat. Short translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. In this endeavor, there is no loss or diminution, and a little advancement on this path can protect one from the most dangerous type of fear. Purport: activity in Krishna consciousness or acting for the benefit of Krishna without expectation of sense gratification is the highest transcendental quality of work. Even a small beginning of such activity finds no impediment, nor can that small beginning be lost at any stage. Any work begun on the material plane has to be completed, otherwise the whole attempt becomes a failure. But any work begun in Krishna consciousness has a permanent effect. Even though not finished, the performer of such work is therefore not at a loss, even if his work in Krishna consciousness is incomplete. 1% done in Krishna consciousness bears permanent results, so that the next beginning is from the point of 2%. Whereas in material activity without 100% success, there is no profit. Ajamil performed his duty in some percentage of Krishna consciousness, but the result he enjoyed at the end was 100% by the grace of the Lord. There is a nice verse in this connection in Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 5, Text 17. Chakva swadharmam charanam bujam harir bhajan apakvota patitata yade yatra kwa bhadram abhud amushya kim kovarta apto bhajatam swadharmataha. Translation of that verse: if someone gives up his occupational duties and works in Krishna consciousness, and then falls down on account of not completing his work, what loss is there on his part? And what can one gain if one performs his material activities perfectly? Or as the Christian says, what profiteth a man if he gain the whole world, yet suffers the loss of his eternal soul? Material activities and their results end with the body. But work in Krishna consciousness carries a person again to Krishna consciousness, even after the loss of the body. At least one is sure to have a chance in the next life of being born again as a human being, either in the family of a great cultured Brahmana or in a rich aristocratic family that will give one a further chance for elevation. That is a unique quality of work done in Krishna consciousness. Jai Srila Prabhupada. So now, ang atin flow of our discussion at yung mga points na I have pinpointed for our discussion for the evening ay tatlo na naman. Just like last time, I also brought up 3 points so that we will discuss 3 main points. And this is these 3 main points is just in relation to our assignment questions. Okay, so if you have accomplished the assignment questions, then malalaman natin yung sagot. So yung unang question, what do we mean in when Krishna says there is no loss or diminution in devotion service? What is the meaning of that? Referring to the purport, as Prabhupada explained in his purport, nabasa natin ngayon lang, na wala tayong, we will not miss out. We will not miss out on what we have accomplished. Or in other words, kahit sabi ni Prabhupada, kahit or in the verse itself, kahit maliit lang, small portion, it doesn't have to be a huge endeavor. And that is the beauty of Krishna consciousness. It doesn't have to be like, you know, be a very huge, successful business person or a whatever success in material world. It doesn't have to be like that. In the contrary, you may achieve that much success, but still, you know, the material profit, i-comparar natin sa spiritual at material, yung profit mo is almost like, sad to say, parang wala rin din silbi, you know, because the general tendency of our material society ay sinasabi na parang we are brainwashed now from the beginning of our, you know, birth. We are propelled to tatahaking is a certain path in material to become materially successful. So you take your birth and then you grow, you go to school, you have to excel in school, and after graduating from school, you get a job, again excel in your job, and along the way, you know, you have a family, you have to also, you know, be successful in your family life, rearing up children, so on and so forth. And then towards the end of your life, you know, that's the time now, in other words, you will try to, yung culmination ng so-called activities mo. You will start to reap, ano, parang retirement, retirement stage na natin. And then after the retirement, what happens? Death, which is inevitable for all of us. So, putting it into perspective in the spiritual point of view, is there something that we have tangibly, achieved? That's why I said kanina, sad to say zero, wala. Kasi why? You will all leave it behind. Madadala ba natin lahat our success? For example, number one, money, our fame, our name. Madadala ba natin? So zero. There's zero at all. You know, the body will just go back to ashes. You know, and then the soul, that which we explained last Thursday, which never dies, as eternal and has no beginning, has no end, will continue to evolve, to annex, in a sense of evolving another body, or reincarnate in another body. So if a person has lacking or zero, we could say points or percentage in spiritual life, this is actually connected sa number 2 question natin. Then he will most probably take birth, either in a lower species of life or hellish, depending on his sinful activities. Maya-maya konti pupunta tayo dito sa kwento ni Ajamil, very interesting. And he was a very sinful guy. We'll come to that later. So anyway, that our material society is kind of crafted in that way. So wala talaga. Pero compared dito ngayon sa sinasabi natin spiritual activities, even a small, kahit maliit lang. And you don't have to be even successful on this endeavor. Kasi syempre, perfection is like, my God, like all the way, all the top, at the top. Purification, you have no desires, all these things, all this, wala ka ng material desires, then you come back to Godhead. Ganun yun eh. So what if we fall short? We fall short to the goal of going back to Krishna, then there is no loss at all. Because yung merit mo is with the soul, it's not with the body. As we explained last week, the soul is eternal. So the dala-dala ng soul, I'm just, parang graphically, para akaliba ako yung soul. Dala-dala ko yung merits ko to my next life. And I will begin where I have stopped. Let's say, I started my journey in Krishna conscious or spiritual life. And then, for some reason or another, hindi ko natapos. I met an accident, pero sana hindi mo siya. At hindi ko natapos. So, according to Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, do not worry. Whatever you have done, you will just carry over. You don't have to go back to zero. Natindan nyo? You don't have to go again. Gagawin uli again. Zero na naman. Step 1, step 2. No. Where you have stopped, then that's where you will again, continue your journey. That's why sinasabi, minsan narinig ninyo, those who are spiritually evolved, they may have done some spiritual activities in their past life, and now they're just continuing it. And that we can see, makikita natin na bakit yung iba ay, there's a term that they take to Krishna conscious just like a fish taking to water. Huh? By the fish, you don't have to teach how to swim the fish, because it's by nature, the fish will just, paglagay mo tubig, swim ka agad. So ibang personalities parang ganun. They have done something in their past life, and then now, due to their spiritual merit, nung they come in contact with devotees, which are Prabhupada, Krishna consciousness, parang light bulb open and everything goes smooth. Pero yung iba naman, that they just started like 1%, 2%, nangangapa pa sila. And they find it difficult, and they say it's weird, it's out of this world. I can't relate to this, something like that. So they may have to stumble around, they have to group around, they may be like, grouping in the dark, So ganun sila. So Iba-iba yung ating levels. So others, when they meet Srila Prabhupada books, take up kaagad. Yung others, for myself, for example, when I joined, when I was third year college, 2008, I already knew about Krishna. I went to the center dun sa probinsya namin. I studied Bhagavad Gita. I was chanting. But I stopped for some reason or another, siguro by peer pressure, yung mga barkada ko mahilig ma-iminom, magbarkada ba. I stopped. Pero buti na lang sa awa ni Krishna, hindi ako natuluyan at I picked it up again. And then yun na yun, tuloy-tuloy na yung akin progress of Krishna consciousness. So that's just one example. You know, ngayon, so balik tayo sa question at what? There is no loss at all. So wag kayo mag-alala. Don't worry. Don't worry at all. Of course, napakaganda if we can, at the end of the life, really perfect our practice of Krishna consciousness. That is the real goal. But if by some reason or another, hindi tayo naging successful, then at the end of the purport, sabi ni Prabhupada, ano mangyayari? You, at the very least, ikaw ay take birth in a human form of life, in a Brahmana family or an aristocratic family, which is tying up to our next question, which I would like just to go in now, which the second question is, or our second point, what is the most dangerous type of fear? So isipin natin, o baka malugi ako sa negosyo, o baka hold upin ako, o baka ganito, ganyan. There are so, the word there in Sanskrit is bayat fear. Yung fear of the unknown, or bayat means danger pala, in the word for word. But baya means also fear, another term of baya. Baya is fear. So we fear a lot of things in this existence sa buhay natin. Pero what is the most dangerous sa lahat na yon? Ano kaya yon? That's why that my question is reading between the lines. It's not really, hindi binibigay ni Prabhupada yung sagot dyan kaagad sa purport niya. So reading between the lines, ito babasahin ko lang baka mahula ninyo. At least, one is sure to have a chance in the next life of being born again. I'm reading the purport of Prabhupada. In a human being, either in the family of a great cultured Brahmana or in a rich aristocratic family, that will give one a further chance for elevation. So ano kaya, reading through this, ano kaya yung most dangerous type of fear? May hint na si Srila Prabhupada dyan eh. He's giving us a hint. At least, sabi niya, at least, at the end of our life, at the time of death, at least we will have a higher birth. Higher birth ang pupuntahan natin because we have done Krishna conscious activities. Diba? So therefore, yung atin masasabi natin, the most dangerous type of fear is the soul tayo, we will glide down to hellish forms of life, or sasabihin natin going to hell, something like that. But that's the term of the, sa simbahan, going to hell. But in our context, it's taking birth in a lower species of life, which is tantamount to very hellish. Why? For example, mga anak ka isang langgam, or you take birth as a microbe, or lower than that is the plant life, which is yung consciousness na is not really developed pa. And lower than plant life there are planets that are lower than earthly planets, which we call hellish planets. So doon ka babagsak. Why? Because you have not done Krishna consciousness. Wala kang ginawang Krishna conscious activities. And you have, for example, you have done a sinful, you have lived a sinful life. So then, therefore, you will glide down And why is it the most dangerous type of fear? Kasi again, you will have to go through the cycle of repeated birth and death in millions and millions of species of life forms. Biro mo yan? Ha? The human form of life, is very rare. Kasi how many species of life tayo? 8,400,000 species of life in this material creation. So you will have to go through again the 8,400,000 species of life form. So katakot-takot, parang, oh my God, again, I'm going to go through this again. But here, the saving grace, Krishna consciousness, if you are in Krishna consciousness and you have been chanting Hare Krishna, you have done something for Krishna, you don't have to go through that. That's why Prabhupada is assuring us in purport, you have at the very least, human form tayo. Hindi tayo mag-glide down in hellish or lower species of life. And what's much better is that, human form life, and maybe in a Brahminical family or aristocratic family, wealthy family, na magagamit mo yung position pera mo for, to further advance, sabi ni Prabhupada, to further advance your elevation in Krishna consciousness. Kasi whether we like it or not, pag meron tayong financial stability, just try to imagine if you don't have to work very hard and you have a big bank account, big bank balance in your bank. So, and ikaw ay devotee, then you can use the money, to help the devotees, and ikaw mismo, you can comfortably practice Krishna consciousness without having to bother with too much, earning a living. So yun. So before I go to the third, ikwekwento natin yung Ajamil kasi nabanggit ni Srila Prabhupada sa kanyang purport. Baka magtataka kayo, sino naman to si Ajamil? I'll just read again. Ajamil, para makuha natin yung context. Ajamil performed his duty in some percentage of Krishna consciousness, but the result he enjoyed at the end was 100% by the grace of the Lord. So ito na. This story can be found in Srimad Bhagavatam. And Ajamil, he was born actually in a high-class family, in a Brahmana family. So maganda yung kalagayan niya, yung kanyang upbringing, cultured. And now when he grew up to be a young man, he chanced upon a Sudra. Sudra means low-class person in India. And a Sudrani, babae, na low-class din. And they were kissing and hugging just along the street. Nakita ni Ajamil, sabi sa Brahminic culture, hindi yun, that was like taboo. Mga para sa kanya. Brahmanas, the really paka or first class. Sabi niya, anong ginagawa ng mga ito? So he was kind of curious about it. So then he investigated the curiosity. Sabi, curiosity kills the cat. So ganun ang nangyari sa kanya. In essence, he was very curious at one thing led to another. That to make a long story short, he felt, actually, nakamali pala ako, backtrack ng konti, meron na siyang pamilya rin. Meron siyang asawa. Meron siyang anak na rin. And he was a cultured family man, respected family man in the society. So, going forward na naman, he fell from that position because he ran away with a prostitute. Okay? Iniwan niya asawa niya. Iwan yung pamilya niya because he was so much enamored with the association of a prostitute. Okay, pero mind you, he had the good training or spiritual training when he was still young, when he was still in the family of his father as a Brahmana. Baga may spiritual activity siyang ginawa. So going back now, in present, So, umalis siya, iniwan yung chaste wife niya, ang bait yung wife niya, anak niya, iniwan niya, para sumama dun sa prostitute. And it goes without saying, obviously, his life became degraded. Napunta sa inuman, punta sa buga sa atin modern mga drugs, sex life, all these things. Wala na, yung kanyang high cultured training ay nakalimutan, wala. Okay? So he spent, sadly, unfortunately, he spent the rest of his life like that. Wallowing in so-called sense gratification, enjoyment, and then he reached old age. At yun ang kanyang kalagayan. He never went back to his family. He never went. So, and then, at the end of his life, mamatay na siya. Mamatay na siya, lying on his deathbed. And still, with the association of the prostitute. And all of a sudden, he started to remember his youngest son. Yung legitimate asawa niya, may anak siya doon. At saka yung pinakabunso niya ay pangalan Narayan. It so happened he was so fond with his bunso. So, sometimes when we are in this predicament, tayo ay masakit, ay mamatay na tayo. Mag-iisip tayo Mag-iisip tayo ng mga things that we wanted in life, things that very close to our heart. So, in his case, naalala yung anak niya. For some reason, hindi niya alala asawa niya. Yung anak niya lang. He's very fond of his youngest son called Narayan. So, what he did, he started to call out the name of his son. While he was in his deathbed, Narayan, Narayan, malakas, sigaw. Siguro with all purity and with all pure intent, he was just calling out on his son. Parang gusto ko, saan ba anak ko, Narayan? It so happened yung pangalan ng anak niya Narayan . And that Narayan is another name of Krishna or God. Okay. So sumisigaw siya, Narayan, Narayan. Baga in his mind, in his consciousness, or in yung pakay niya, saan na yung anak ko, yung mahal ko na anak, saan na yan? Narayan, saan ka na? Because Krishna and his name are non-different, he was calling out on Krishna's name and Krishna the person. So nung narinig yung word or the name Narayan, nagdatingan yung mga servants of Lord Narayan. Hindi mismo si Lord Narayan ay dumating. Yung kanyang mga servants. Because they said, "Uy, narinig namin yung pangalan ng amin master. Someone is calling out the name of our master. Let's go and find out where is this coming from and sino yun." So dumating sila. But prior to that, because of his very sinful activities, may dumating mga ibang entities to punish him. Let me remind you that he was so degraded, left his family, all this. He was very sinful, in other words, very sinful person. So he will now be punished, supposed to be. So dumating yung mga Yamadutas, tawag doon Yamadutas, or they are the servants of God of Death, Yamaraj. So they come, and this is true. We have a lot of accounts that in a deathbed, biglang nakahiga ka, biglang gaganon ka, tatayo ka, tapos yung matama ang laki. And the explanation is that they are seeing the very gruesome form of these Yamadutas coming now to take their soul because of their sinful activities. So andun sila, yung mga Yamadutas, kasi alam nila ito si Ajamil, very sinful to. Iniwan yung asawa, iniwan yung pamilya. Very sinful, went with a prostitute, nag-iinuman. So now it's time for punishment. Kukunin na natin siya. But at the same time, sumisigaw si Ajamil ng, Narayan! Narayan! So sana kukunin na siya, he will be imprisoned by the Yamadutas, biglang nagdatingan yung mga servants of Lord Narayan. And what did they do? They said, stop. Stop, do not get him jurisdiction because he has called out the name of our master Narayan. You see? You understand? He was supposed to be punished already by the Yamadutas. Kalad ka rin na kayong soul niya in a subtle form, of course. Kalad ka rin na siya. And then he will be sent to the hellish planets to be punished of his activities, sinful activities. Pero pinigilan sila. Stop. Very effulgent yung mga servants of Lord Narayan. Ano nga tawag sa kanila, Prabhu Radhacharan? Yung mga Vishnudutas pala. Vishnudutas. Pangalan sa kanila, Vishnudutas, mga servants of Lord Narayan. Very effulgent, very powerful. At yung mga Yamadutas, andun sila, may picture yan sa Srimad Bhagavatam. Andun sila sa tabi, ang dilim nila, sabi niya, naku, sino mga to? Sino naman to yung dumarating at mag-aagawan tayo nito sa kaluluwa ni Ajamil. So it goes without saying, wala silang magagawa kasi Yamadutas are more powerful than the Yamadutas. So there are details there. There are details. I will not tell the details for the sake of time. But the essence is that he was saved. Ito si Ajamil. Sana pupunta na siya sa hellish planet. For sure, 100%. But the saving grace was he was, as I said, he was purely chanting or calling out the name of Narayan, and he was not, inimical at all to the Lord. He was just like fallen to we could say, victim to victim to his senses, in sense gratification niya. At of course, he had done in the context of our purport of Srila Prabhupada, he has done something spiritual na activity. And most importantly, he was chanting the names of Krishna or God at the time of death. So nagdatingan sila. Ayan, very good. Thank you very much, Radhacharan Prabhu. Ayan. Makikita nyo si Ajamil, ayan nakahiga, matanda. That's the depiction of the body, pero yung soul is not old, of course. So, pero ito yung soul, hinahatak na, nakikita mo, iba na may buhok na siya, itim. So, may tali yan, may tali. So, kalad ka rin na siya. He was supposed to be dragged by the ropes of this Yamadutas. Tignan mo yung itsura niyan. If you can see them, this is true. These are true stories that people who are in their deathbed, they see these people, Meron pa nga yan, isa pa nga yung may aso eh. Ang una darating dyan yung aso. Yung kanilang alagad din yan. Yung mga aso nila, yung Yamadutas. Siya yung mag-smell. He will smell death. Aamoy niya yan, yung aso. And people, those in death, they can see, ba't may aso dito? Anong ginagawa niyan? Actually, nauuna sila. They can smell death and then darating ito yung mga Yamadutas. So, pero dito sa kabilang side, makikita mo yung four-handed form of what you call Vishnudutas. Very effulgent, And tingnan mo, they're stopping these Yamadutas from taking away Ajamil. Okay? To make a long story short, he was saved. Hindi siya natuluyan. He was saved by the Vishnudutas. And then in his next life, in our context of this, in relation to our verse for today, no loss or diminution in this, even a small, endeavor. In his next life, he began where he stopped. And then, as it said in the Srimad Bhagavatam, in his next life, he went back home to Godhead. Balik na siya kay Krishna. Okay? Now, a little word of caution lang dito. Na huwag tayo gagaya kay Ajamil, ha? Naisipin natin na, okay lang pala, sige. Mag-sense gratification tayo, mag-sinful life tayo. And then at the end of our life, tatawagin lang si Krishna, darating sila. No, it doesn't work like that. For him, he was a special case. Si Ajamil was a special case. So wag natin i-equate yung sarili natin kay Ajamil. Ay, pwede pala yun. Gawin na lang natin kaya yun. Mag-meat eating tayo, intoxication, do all sinful activities. And then at the end of our life, we just chant Hare Krishna. It's okay. It may happen that way, but there's a big risk, a huge risk. Kasi pero sa kanya, kasi in his childhood days, meron siya spiritual activity na gawa. Tayo wala, you know. And at the time of death, andiyan din siya Srimad Bhagavatam, so much suffering that you will not be able to remember Krishna. Kaya in the injunction of the Shastra or scriptures, at the very early age pa lang, we have to already, start practicing Krishna consciousness. At least, sabi nga, in the age of 5 years old pa lang, dapat magsimula na tayo mag-chant ng Hare Krishna, practice spiritual life, so that all throughout our lives, at the end culmination of our, of our life, because of our practice of the buong buhay natin, we can remember Krishna. Ganon yung, kaya may Gurukul, para mga bata, they're still young, they know Krishna. Hindi kagaya sa akin, college ako, tsaka pa lang ko nalaman si Krishna. So a lot of catch-upping for at least for me, na para maalala natin si Krishna. And then the last, how is our time? Ayan. Tama. Itong last question natin, which is the last point for today, dito sa verse natin. Ano naman yung relation dito sa kinote ni Prabhupada from the Bible, which is a famous quote, by the way. I'm reading again from his purport. What profiteth a man if he gain the whole world, yet suffers the loss of his eternal soul? This is in relation sa kinote ni Srila Prabhupada. Mayroon siyang kinote, a verse, from Srimad Bhagavatam. Which is yung kanyang translation in English. If someone gives up his occupational duties and works in Krishna consciousness, and then falls down on account of not completing his work, what loss is there on his part? And what can one gain if one performs his material activities perfectly? And then he quotes that very famous verse. What profiteth a man if he gains the whole world, but yet suffers the loss of the eternal soul? Of course, yung eternal soul hindi naman nagsasuffer. Na we are, as we already discussed, the soul doesn't suffer. So it means to say na, again, pag nakalimutan natin yung spiritual aspect of our existence, because our existence is dalawa, body and soul. We have this material body, but the true identity is tayo yung spirit soul within the body. So, meron din dyan ewan ko kung makita mo yung Prabhu Radhacharan, yung picture of the bird in the cage. Bird in the cage. So habang hinahanap niya, there is this in a metaphor or analogy na we have a cage and then the bird is inside, and then the owner comes to take care by some convoluted understanding his mind. He forgets to feed the bird within the cage and just polishes the cage, takes care of the cage, and neglects the bird within the cage. So in other words, hindi niya pinapakain, hindi niya pinapainom yung bird. And then of course, obviously ang mangyari, mamatay yung bird. Diba? Kasi hindi mo pinigyan ng pagkain eh. So the analogy is given that busy tayo sa atin pag-alaga ng katawan, which is the cage. Pero nakalimutan natin yung bird, which is the soul within this cage or this body. And we don't feed, ayan. Animation na picture, So tignan mo, tigok na yung bird at the second. Yung isa ay nililinis silang cage, ganda yung cage, which is unfortunately taking care of the cage, ayan. Unfortunately, ganito ang nangyayari sa society natin eh. We are brainwashed by society to do all these things. I-pamper yung katawan natin, do this, do that, go here, go there. And then we neglect, which is the most important item in our existence, yung spirit soul within the body. So what happens? Namamatay yung spiritual, life. It's neglected. Nagugutom yung, kaya we say, kaya we say, parang may something missing. There's something missing in my life. Even those who have really achieved, in a pinnacle of, material success, they have all the money, all the wealth, all the position. Still, they will say, may kulang pa rin, may something kulang. And what's the kulang is that because he failed to take care of the soul within the body. Hindi niya inalagaan, hindi niya na-feed yung soul within the body. So therefore, something is missing. There's something missing in his, which is rich or poor, yun ang parang pakiramdam natin, may kulang pa rin eh. There's something wrong here. So now that we know na itong kailangan natin alagaan yung living, the spiritual within, then we mold our activities in that way. Spiritual activities that will enliven or awaken the dormant spirituality of the soul within. So yun ang kinakailangan natin. And it will radiate. Lalabas siya. Kaya makikita mo yung mga spiritually advanced personalities, they have an aura. Yun ang aura na napakaliwanag. It's radiating out of them. Because they are taking care of the soul within. And then the body just, the form, this follows the health, so-called health of the soul within. So, tama-tama, alas 8, natapos tayo. I think I have covered what I have to say. Kasi maiksi lang naman yung four-part natin, and we have just extracted 3 main points sa atin discussion. So to recap, there is no loss, nothing. Walang. We call it, we call a term a spiritual bank account, if you may. Di ba sa bangko nagde-deposito tayo? Every now and then yung mga kinikita natin, So similarly, when we do spiritual activities, we are also depositing in our spiritual bank account somewhere in the spiritual world. But the good news is that it doesn't diminish. Hindi na nababawasan yan, yung spiritual bank account natin. Hindi kagaya sa atin, di ba? Mag-impok tayo sa bangko, tapos mamaya mag-withdraw tayo sa ATM, ubos na rin. That is the material, side of things. But in spiritual, there is no loss. Tuloy-tuloy yan, yung spiritual bank account natin. As long as we continue to perform spiritual activities, ayan, patak ng patak, we are depositing, merits in our spiritual bank account. So that is the first, there's no loss. And then tied to that is that the most dangerous type of fear, which is gliding down to hellish form of life, which is, nabanggit ko nga, naisingit natin yung story of Ajamil. Very frightful yun if you were in his position. Na-share ni Prabhu Radha Charan yung picture of the Yamadutas, tying up the soul and dragging him. And so that is the most dangerous type of fear. And on the other hand, we are being assured by Srila Prabhupada that if we may not finish or perfect our Krishna conscious life in this life, then we are sure to have at least a human form of life. I already explained that earlier. And then lastly, ito yung Bible quote that you may have everything in life. You may have all the success. You may imagine kahit ano pang isipin mo. Still, but if you do not, take care, like the cage, bird in the cage, if you don't take care of the soul within, then it's just like useless endeavor, actually. Sayang, ibig sabihin, as Prabhupada say, we misuse the human form of life. We misuse the form of human. Kasi human form of life is the only escape route in this vicious cycle of repeated birth and death. Dito lang tayo makakalabas. Not in other species of life, only human form. that we can, chant Krishna's name, we can, engage in his activities. So ayan, I will stop here at tignan natin sa meron ba kayong mga questions? Madami nga, Okay. Si Shinya, what's the difference between Krishna consciousness activities with ISKCON and Krishna activities with other groups? Ito ay, I can answer. Medyo a little bit of explaining we have to do here. In one sense, wala naman pakaiba, we cannot just say iba yung kanilang brand and iba naman yung brand natin, and therefore makaiba yung kalalabasan, But here, ito sa ISKCON, International Society for Krishna Consciousness, which is si Srila Prabhupada ang founder Acharya. He was empowered by Lord Krishna without a doubt. Kasi no other person in the history of this world has done what he has done. In his very advanced age, matanda na. That he was able to, establish ISKCON, International Society for Krishna Consciousness. So I think what I'm saying here is we are much safer here with this movement of which Srila Prabhupada has established. Kung ako, kasi for me, I could have also, checked out the other groups. I have been here 30 years or more, and in my 30 years, what is there to check out in other groups? Kung meron naman dito, bakit pa ako pupunta sa ibang groups? So anyway, my point here is that I would be feeling very much contented and safe under the lotus feet of Srila Prabhupada, because he was the empowered incarnation, tawag dyan Shaktabes avatar, empowered by Krishna to come and propagate Krishna consciousness outside of India. Prior to that, maraming, ito kasi may history dyan, prior to that, there were other devotees who also went out and tried to establish Krishna consciousness outside of India. They failed, sad to say. It was only Srila Prabhupada who succeeded. So therefore, we can conclude that he was because for lack of a better term, the chosen one. Siyang pinili ni Krishna that you be the one to do it. So might as well I stay with Srila Prabhupada. I would be, nothing would possibly go wrong. In other groups, I don't know. Yes, we can also have that. But as I've said, yung ating human form of life is very precious. Wag na natin sayangin. Let's not waste our time, going here, going there, going there. At least I can say for myself, I'm lucky enough na hindi ako na, kasi may ibang kilala ko na they entered other religions, Muslim, Christian, Buddhism. They try to seek enlightenment in other groups, and I don't know what happened to them, if they found it. So moving along, if one does not, ito kay Jonah ba to? If one has not done any Krishna consciousness, but he lived a life helping people and avoiding sins, though not believing in serving God, where does this man go? Good question. This is what you call karma. It's a technical term in Sanskrit. Karma Mimamsa philosophy. There's actually may philosophy yan, and it's called Karma Mimamsa philosophy, doing good. Just doing good. Just do good things. Like helping a old lady crossing the street, doing good. Giving food to those who are hungry, doing good. This is what you call Karma Mimamsa philosophy. So in the law of karma, if we do good things will come back to you. But this is all under the jurisdiction of material nature. This is not spiritual. Hindi siya spiritual. It's not in the realm of spirituality. It is just in the realm of material, doing good things. So, ang sagot sa question mo, if you do good things, wala kang nasagasaan, you don't avoid sins, you live a good life, then you get good karma. Then you get good karma. But still, that is not the ultimate goal. Kasi ang goal natin is to get out of here. It's not that we want to stay here and enjoy and do good things. Diba? Because like in the prison house, the analogy of Prabhupada, all of us are in the prison house of Maya Devi, superintendent of this this material world is called Maya, yung warden baga sa kulungan. You know, so you may have a nice, sometimes hindi ba sa loob ng kulungan sa Bilibid prison house, may magandang mga kulungan sila, may the aircon, may kompletong TV, flat screen, widescreen TV, and they enjoy life. They enjoy life inside the prison house. But they're still imprisoned. You know, they are still limited in their scope of paggalawan nila. So similarly, ganun tayo, we may enjoy here, ang sarap dito, but still we are in prison. It doesn't still discount the fact that we're still in the prison house. So ang goal natin is to get out of the prison house. Di ba? So yun ang doon sa sagot po yun sa question of doing good things, then you get good karma. Bakit, sabi ni Janice, bakit ginawa tayo being reborn again? With your consciousness just curious? Ito siguro ay what you mean is that new consciousness is but reborn. Kasi there's the phenomenon pala. When you take birth, you forget when you're in the womb, ito ay Srimad Bhagavatam, where you're in the womb, you remember your past life. Interestingly, nasa womb ka ng nanay mo, 9 months, you remember your past life. And therefore, you are praying to Krishna, your fetus position ay actually nagdadasal ka dyan, ganun. And you're praying to Krishna na, sana Krishna, when I get out of this predicament, you know, for 9 months na nakulong ako, I will worship you, Krishna. You're praying like that. But the trauma of birth is so much pain that you forget. Nakalimutan mo. You know, the pain that you know, paglabas mo, then you are put into forgetfulness. And that's what your new consciousness. So you start again from, you know, square number 1. Kalimutan mo lahat. And then your parents give you a name, and then you give you're born in this country, so isip mo Pilipino ako, si ganito ako. So actually we're all spirit souls. We don't belong in the Philippines. I am not a male, I'm not a female. You know, we are souls. So parang new consciousness ay parang ganun. Yung na binibigay sa atin in our birth. And Shinya, and isn't it that people who devote their lives to their respective notions of who God is devote their lives to Krishna too, because there's only one? Yes, ultimately ganon. You know, kaya sabi nga ni George Harrison, they may not know it, but they're actually looking for Krishna. You know, it may be a different term, be different path, but ultimately we all are looking for Krishna. Hare Krishna, I read Bhaktaron. Hare Krishna, I read this story po sa coming back. Yes, Science of Reincarnation, great story with beautiful illustration. Jai. How to share this kind of reminds me on how I've watched my father take his last breath on his deathbed, learning Krishna consciousness made me look at life and death on a different way. Tama po yan, tama yan. You know, that was one of my first book I also read, yung Coming Back, when I was still starting to practice Krishna, and it really struck me na ganito pala yun, mayroon reincarnation, we are souls, you know. So ayun na, I think that's all, no? Meron pa ba kayong karagdagan questions aside from nasulat dito? And I hope I answered your questions, satisfactorily.
May pahabol Prabhu si
Saan?
David Prabhu and si Nikita Mataji. Yan, si Chanel is Nikita.
Si David, Prabhu, if we forgot where we end up in our past life, is it connected with our subconscious mind or intuition? Yes. Lahat na to is stored parang baga sa memory ng computer. Which the term there, a technical term in Sanskrit is samskara. The samskaras are all stored within the subconsciousness of our mind. Nandyan lang siya. And sometimes it comes out in our dreams. Nagtataka ka, ba't panaginip po ganito? Wala naman akong ganyan eh. Hindi ko naman hindi naman ako nakapunta dun eh. But because it's locked in your subconsciousness and for some reason na-trigger siya, and then you dream about it. So nandyan lang siya. And actually, the beauty of Krishna consciousness, or the beauty of creation of Krishna, it's a blessing in disguise na we are put into forgetfulness. Why? Imagine, try to imagine, maalala mo, I mentioned there is 8,400,000 species of life. Let's say naalala mo yung mga past past lives. When you were a cockroach, when you were a pig, when you were a fly or a cat, a dog, and all these things are bombarding your mind, you'll go crazy. You'll go crazy. So therefore, when connected nung kanina, why we are put into forgetfulness, that's another reason. Krishna makes us forget. Sometimes you say, sana maalala ko yung past life ko. Yes, but are you ready to, learn all these things, and not only one life, but millions of lifetime? You will end up your days just being like, being mental. Isip mo to, isip ganyan, isip ganito. Ay, ganito pala ako dati, ganito pala siya, ito lang ginawa ko. Oh my God, you'll just be wasting all your time thinking about it. So Krishna makes us forget. And then, mas maganda pa nga yan. Parang clean slate. And then we start, fresh. So new consciousness ang sabi. And then if we're lucky enough, just like we are all lucky enough to come in contact with Krishna consciousness, then that's the greatest boon or greatest wish we can ever have in our life. To know about Krishna, to know about all these things. Posible, saan na ba tayo?
Si Bhakti Nikita, Chanel Chronicles yung name niya, Prabhu.
Okay, I like the idea we are not males or females, we are soul. Trans woman here feel lost most of the time. Ayan, tama yan. Yeah. We are not actually the body. We are just too much engrossed sa katawan natin. Yeah. Shinya, possible po ba na maalala natin past life natin? May nakita kasi ako ang document. Yes. That is possible. Regression science. That's one film I also watched when I was still starting to be devotee. Kalimutan ko na eh. It was an old film. It's an old film, and they documented mga scientific. Kasi the whole context of the documentary is to prove the existence of the soul. So in that, what I can remember, may isang babae, in her regression, may expert na tawag doon yung hypnotize ka eh. And then in her regression, she started to speak a foreign language, not her native language. She was like, I think, American. And then she started to speak French, fluent French, while in regression, nakapikit siya. And it's all recorded. And she said that, in my past life, I got married in this church. I met this guy. And then the whole documentary, pinuntahan talaga nila. And lo and behold, pagdating niya, andun yung church where she got married in her past life. So very accurate. Tama yan. May off topic. There is a Netflix show entitled Surviving Death Part Episode 6 about reincarnation. It may shed some light on belief of reincarnation. Well, hindi ako familiar dito sa sinasabing Netflix na show. But yes, you know, there are so many ano na ngayon eh. Dati hindi tinatanggap yung principle of reincarnation eh. It's taboo. You know, nobody wants to talk about it, or if you talk about it, you're weird. And they will just look at you and, you know, leave you behind. Ano bang sinasabi nito? So, but now it's accepted. It seems to be, you know, mainstream, tinatanggap na nila, reincarnation. So, wala na, no? Yun na yun. Okay. So, is there anything else? I hope that you were able to follow na discuss natin. And we should try our best, sabi nga ni Srila Prabhupada, do not just accept blindly. Do not just accept blindly the philosophy of Krishna conscious na, you know, with your eyes closed, susunod ka lang what you hear. Scrutinize, Prabhupada said, scrutinize it. And then you come up with your, you know, conclusion at the end. Sabi pa nga, ano sabi doon? I forgot the term. Hindi, anyway, paraphrasing. Hindi mo matitikman yung honey, bote na ang honey sa loob ng bote kung hindi mabubuksan. You just keep on licking the bottle outside at thinking matikman mo yung honey. So dapat buksan mo at matikim mo yung honey within. And then say, oh, ito pala yung lasa ng honey. So similar in Krishna consciousness, ganun din. You know, we may present, okay, this is this, this is that. But if you do not scrutinize this and that, as like you are asking questions, maganda ngayon, then you come up with your conclusion. It's not lang parang pasahan na, oh, ito, ganito yan ha. No. You come up and then of course, isabay mo rin, you try to also follow the four regulative principles. Alam nyo yung interesting I would like to share with you all. Actually, yung brother ko ang nagdala sa akin in Krishna consciousness. There were some devotees distributing books at our town. Tapos may nagbigay ng Bhagavad Gita. Ako naman, nakita ko, sabi ko, anong book na to? Tinanong ko yung kapatid ko, sabi niya, about yoga, reincarnation, something like that. So di binasa ko yung Bhagavad Gita. I could not make heads or tails of it. Why? Because at that time, I was living a very impure life, which means na mukhain ako ng karne, nag-intoxicate ako. But when I started to, you know, get my act together, so to speak, I stopped, you know, eating meat. And then the Bhagavad Gita started to make sense in my intellect. Para may covering. Parang may hawak-hawak ko ng Bhagavad Gita sa kamay ko. Hindi ko maintindihan. But when I started to chant, you know, try to follow four principles, give up at least yung eating, biglang nag-ano na siya. It jumped out of the page. Ay, ganito pala yun. Ay, ganito pala yun. So, very important kay si Srila Prabhupada. His approach is four regulative principles, which is very scientific. You know, we cannot make progress pag hindi natin nasunod yan. Yung four regulative principles, napakahirap. Yung mind, Prabhupada said, meat eating blocks the brain to understand higher philosophical topics. Hindi napipigil lang yung brain to understand all these things. For some reason, nababak tayo. So please, please scrutinize. You know, don't take our word for it. You know, do your own homework. You know, and apply. And I'm going a step further here. Share it to others. And you will get the most, you know, blessings from Lord Krishna. I give you one last. I give you an example. binigyan ka ng regalo, let's say a cake. Binigyan, masarap na cake. Ay, ito, kainin mo to. And then here you go, sabi mo, ay, kainin ko lang mag-isa ito, yung cake na to. Eh, total masarap eh. Ayaw ko ipakita sa iba, ayaw ko i-share sa iba. Okay? Yes, you can enjoy, you will enjoy. But what if you share that cake to others? The joy is increased or multiplied 10 times, 100 times. Seeing that others are also enjoying eating the cake. Kaysa yung ikaw lang doon sa isang sulok kumakain ng cake. You know? So similarly, ang itong Krishna consciousness, we share to others. I-share din natin sa iba. And I'm sure others are, wanting. Ito yung kulang. Ito ang kulang sa atin, sa atin lipunan, in our society. There is, sabi nga proper, there is no lacking of engineers, architects, lawyers, doctors. There's no lacking of that in society. What is lacking is this spiritual knowledge, Krishna conscious. Ito yung kulang. So with that, we can end here. Umapunta tayo. Almost 30 minutes na nalagpas tayo.
Yan. Maraming salamat, our dear Sridham Prabhu. Indeed, we have learned a lot tonight. Isang takeaway ko is, sabi, we should not, yes, Ajamil was very fortunate by the arrangement of Krishna, but we should not isugal na bandang huli na lang tayo mag-Krishna consciousness. Ngayon, habang bata ako, mag-enjoy muna ako. We don't know actually the future, what will happen in the future. And the best time is now, and the best place is here. And Prabhu, gusto ko lang i-share kasi pinadala na ako ni John ng cupcake. So pagpunta mo rito, bibigyan din kita ng cake para mas maganda yung joy. Mas mag-increase yun.
Ayun na nga, sabi ko na, yung cake, i-share mo yung cake. In this instance, cupcake.
Oh, yes.
Okay lang naman kung
punta mo rito, Prabhu, bukas pa yan. Sabi ni Chantal Mataji, I have been listening to your stories of the chapters of the Mahabharata. I enjoy learning from you very much. Yes.
Talaga ha? Okay.
If you want the link to mga Srimad Bhagavatam classes, you can message Sridham Prabhu. And you can send him your realizations for our class tonight.
Yung Mahabharata. Actually, bukas may recording ako doon sa session na chapter 6 of Shabda Parva.
Sakto. Handa ko yung cupcakes.
Ayun, at ilalabas sa Monday. Every Monday ilalabas yun eh.
Yes. And Katie Prabhu is asking for your Facebook account. I'll forward it to you.
Ay, ka na lang. Yeah.
Saka yung nasa group chat actually, yung Edward na doon, na name doon.
No.
So without further ado, maraming salamat, Sridham Prabhu. And of course, I'm very sure that the students learn a lot from the Srimad Bhagavatam by your mercy. And we're hoping and praying to please pray for us so we could relish more yung pagsali ng Srimad Bhagavad Gita.
Ito lang para matawag nito. Everybody will be enthused and encouraged. Talking about Srimad Bhagavatam, I'm teaching Srimad Bhagavatam to the kids. Imagine that. Bata. My son is 9 years old. My grade 2. And imagine that ito, pinag-usapan Srimad Bhagavatam. Kanina, we were talking about the cause of the creation. Very deep philosophy. Pero sila, very lucky, very fortunate na alam na nila, bata pa sila. Yung mga technical points, and they're like sponge. And they're like sponge, they assimilate it. So, sabi nga kanina, the earlier the better. If we get in touch with this and we learn in an early age, and it will be, sabi ko nga, samskara, yung subconscious, it will be locked in their subconsciousness, yung mga children, and when they grew up, just like Ajamil, just like Ajamil, andyan lang siya. It's all there, just, locked in our subconsciousness.
Yan. Baka pwede rin kami dyan kahit di kami kids, Prabhu. Or yung mga kids nila.
Pwede naman. Pwede, just tell me.
Yan.
Just
Message
tell me.
Freedom Prabhu para we could have arrangement para sa mga online. Pwede mag-join online din.
Yeah, we every Tuesday and Thursday. Sa Thursday, Srimad Bhagavatam ako with the kids. Pero of course, geared towards children, mga games, mga ano. And then Tuesday naman Ramayan about the pastime of Lord Ram. Kasi mga bata gusto nila story. Yung may mga demons, kalaban yung mga demigods, mga unggoy, si Hanuman. Gustong-gusto nila yun.
Yan, nag-inquire sila dyan. Yes, message si Sridham Prabhu. We could make arrangements. Si Trina Mataji, but she's not here. Her son was joining yung mga classes before.
When we started the school year, nagjo-join si Gustavo.
Yes, Gustavo, yes. So maraming salamat. Before we end, group picture muna tayo. Please open your camera. Baka nagugutom na yung mga alaga ninyo dyan. Hindi nyo pa napapakain. Yan. Maraming salamat. Nice to see everyone. Ang sarap i-end yung evening, no? Nung araw with Krishna conscious lectures and stories and association. Yan. Count of 3. Smile sa camera. 1, 2, and 3. One more. 1, 2, 3. So yes, sabi ni Sridham Prabhu, scrutinizingly, read, study, and also don't forget to chant your rounds every day. Tomorrow, 5:30 to 7 o'clock, we still have the Japa session. 7 to 8, our Srimad Bhagavatam every morning session. 8 o'clock will be, and 11 o'clock will be either His Holiness Giridhari Guru Maharaj, and also Ashu, Krishna Baladev Prabhu. And 7 o'clock tomorrow evening will be Kirtan session. So the schedules and channels, Zoom, will be posted in our group chat. I'm always humbled and honored having your association. And maraming salamat. See you again tomorrow. Hare Krishna. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaura Premanande. Haribol. Thank you very much. Hariza Mataji, Rolly Prabhu, Raul Prabhu, Janice Mataji, Jonah Mataji, Rodel Prabhu, Ron Prabhu, KD Prabhu, David Prabhu, Shinya Prabhu, Nikita Mataji. Hare Krishna. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye. Thank you, Prabhu Sridham.